So this is very easy. I'm just going to ask you first to state your full name and that you understand this is going to be used for educational purposes and as part of a short film about Savannah. And then I'm going to ask you a couple of questions and then you tell me what you want to say. So first, if you would state your full name.
I'm Miriam Center.
Okay. And you understand that this is going to be used for a short film about Savannah and will be part of the archives or the library system or an exhibit. Okay. Were you born in Savannah?
I was born in Savannah at 215 West Charlton Street, which became a slum then after World War II. Then it became, I think my grandparents sold it for $6,000 when they died, and it recently sold for over $1 million. Because work was done on it in the interim period, but that's how property downtown changed. It was across from a square that faced the Jewish Educational Alliance, the old one, and my uncles used to go there. There were 6 people in my mother's family. And so to everybody get a bath on time, my uncles would go over there for a quarter and take a shower. A lot of Jewish people did that then. Young men, they went to the Alliance and took showers.
How many generations is your family in Savannah? Can you tell us something about the generations that came before?
I guess I'm first generation in Savannah. My father came when he was 12, and they put him in school, and he was so embarrassed because he was a 12-year-old in the first grade that as soon as he got to the 4th grade, he quit and ran away from home. My mother came when she was 4, and her father had a horse and wagon and was a peddler. My paternal grandfather was a tailor. The one that was the horse and peddler ended up buying this house on Charlton Street. They felt like they were rich in those days. It was 2 stories with an attic and a dirt floor on the basement where black families lived. He rented those out to them.
Did the majority of the Jewish population live around the JEA proper?
They lived around the JEA and the B.B. Jacobs Synagogue, which is now a SCAD building.
Where did your grandparents come from? You said your father moved when he was 12.
Belarus.
Belarus. Okay. All right. Hold on just a second. Tell me a little something about growing up in Savannah.
Growing up in Savannah, well, we went to Sunday school at the B.B. Jacob. And on the high holidays, because we were part of the Orthodox, women and men sat differently. The women up in the balcony, so on high holidays I would have to go up and kiss my grandmothers, and they always smelled of mothballs because their clothes had been in for the whole season and they'd just taken them out. So that was my memory of the Jewish holidays, mothballs.
Your family was always associated with the B.B. Jacob. Are you still with the B.B. Jacob?
I'm not associated with anything. I just mainline straight to God. And when they ask me if I'm Jewish, I say, I think when Jewish people are born, we're marked, we're Jewish, no matter what we choose to practice.
Did you grow up with any formal Jewish education?
I grew up with Jewish background because my grandparents' house was kosher. Mother kept a halfway kosher house.
Did you go through a confirmation service?
We didn't do that for girls when I was young.
Okay.
That happened later.
Okay. When you were growing up, did you spend some of your after-school hours at the JEA? And what kind of activities did you enjoy?
We spent lots of weekends at the Sundays at the JEA. They were closed on Saturdays. We had old girls' clubs like I think it was called Buds of Judea or something like that. And it was very important to be popular. In those days, girls' greatest honor and class was to be a popular.
With that popularity, did you find yourself going to dances, and did you tend to go to things that were secular or things that were offered by the Jewish community?
I did both because I went to Ebba Olson Thompson's dancing school, and one of the things she taught were ballroom classes, and she would teach us to sit with our feet not crossed like this. And it was mixed. I never felt that we were just Jewish oriented and that's it. Most of my friends were everything, every religion, and it's been that way all my life. I never felt anti-Semitism in Savannah at all.
Now, people from the north might find that unusual because they might associate this, especially after the Leo Frank period in Atlanta, which was at least 40 years before your father would have gotten here. But tell me a little something about where you went to school and getting along as a Jewish person with your non-Jewish neighbors.
I never felt that there was any difference. And I went to 37th Street Public School, that also is now a SCAD building. I could go around Savannah, and everywhere I went to school is now a SCAD building, beautifully done over. But I never felt a difference, except in high school. There were these society groups called Quisqui and Entre Nous, and Jewish girls were not invited, but it didn't bother me. Because World War II came along when I was just about 14, and suddenly the city was populated with gorgeous young men in uniforms, and I was dating at 16 years old, beautiful men from all over the country.
Did you do anything with Girl Scouts, Hadassah, any of the B'nai B'rith girls, USO, or any of the other formal organizations?
I did Red Cross and USO. I did a lot of Red Cross work.
Some of the early Girl Scout memories, I've been told, have to do with Red Cross drills at Forsyth Park. Did you ever participate in anything like that?
I never was active in the Girl Scouts.
No, but through the Red Cross. They worked with the Red Cross. Okay. What are your memories of World War II, and what kind of information did you know about what was going on in Europe?
Well, my sister and I think I was 14 when it brought my sister and I were at the Bijou Theater on a Sunday afternoon, and they suddenly stopped the film, and a man came out on the stage and said, "We have to stop this film. America has just been bombed." And we rushed on a streetcar and went home, and our father we never said father, we had daddies. Fathers is fashionable now, but we had daddies. Our daddy was listening to the radio and Franklin Roosevelt announcing war, and I didn't know what they were talking about. It was totally foreign to me.
Did your life change because of World War II?
It changed drastically. That's when we started getting real interest with the Red Cross. Mother would knit socks, and my sister and I would sit with her at night and knit socks and scarves for servicemen. And I started working with the Red Cross for actually, I don't know if it was Red Cross, but it was USO, going down to the train station and feeding soldiers Spam sandwiches and flirting.
Did you know any young men from the Jewish community that went overseas?
Yes, but most of the boys in my class were too young, but a little bit older. One was this really nice guy from a nice family, Milton, I can't think of his last name right now, and he was missing in action, and they never found him.
What do you remember about the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948? And did that impact you locally, either through the news or through what was going on in the synagogues?
The news was so limited then that we didn't get that news like they do today instantly. I did not know too much about it.
Do you remember later on in '67 war and the '73 war, any activities that were going on here in Savannah that in any way connected you to Israel?
Actually, at that time in my life, I wasn't active in things. I belonged to Hadassah, but I was busy. I was the first Jewish woman to go in her own business in real estate, and I was busy doing that and starting a family. And then my oldest son, what year are you talking about?
That would have been 1967 and 1973.
Well, my oldest son died of a brain tumor in '63 when he was 15, so I was wrapped up in that more than worldly things.
I'm so sorry for the loss. I didn't know. Would you tell me something about being a Jewish businesswoman?
I never felt that it was a detriment. In fact, I thought it was an asset because now when I walk around town, and I've been off to California after I closed my business and got a master's in spiritual psychology, I walk down the street now and different leading businessmen will stop and say, "Oh, I love that property you sold me." I don't even know what they're talking about, but I had a good reputation, and I guess it stayed.
Did you work in real estate exclusively?
Yes. I opened my own firm called Miriam Real Estate.
Did you have obstacles that you had to cross because you were a woman, or because you were Jewish, or because it was a man's world, or
I had some obstacles because of woman and man in a man's world, but never because I was Jewish. But I've had different businessmen, one lawyer who was a judge, I shall leave his name out because he's dead. He screamed, "Why did you come to this closing?" I was closing a house with one of the bank presidents. I said, "Because I'm handling it. We don't need you."
Did you ever get involved in the women's movement?
I was involved in the women's movement, but more than the women's movement, I was involved in the civil rights. I was very active for over 50 years with Miriam McLean, and then with W.W. Law and Eugene Gadsden. I was a big part of that.
More so than the women's movement, some of the names you mentioned are associated with the civil rights movement. Do you remember actively participating in any way in the civil rights movement?
Oh yes, very much so. In fact, when Gloria and Ben Tucker moved to Savannah, he was the first black radio station here, and he wanted to live in downtown Savannah. And they couldn't find a realtor, so they called white, Jewish, liberal, Democrat, me. And together, I said this at his funeral service too, that together we changed Savannah, and it's never been the same. It's been better.
Looking back at all you had to go through in order to make a go of the business, and seeing how many opportunities are open to young people nowadays, is there something that you are most proud of about breaking some barriers, or is there some advice you would give to younger people that are getting ready to set up in business?
I think that everybody should follow their heart and do what they want to do, and not let anybody else discourage them. I mean, some of my biggest political arguments were with Mayor Rouzakis, because he was really a feminist. And I was married to a man that was on city council, so we had to struggle. Don Mendoza wanted me to be chairman of the Metropolitan Planning Commission. There'd never been a woman. And we won, and I was chairman. And then I ran for state senate in 1976. A woman against two men. I threw them into a runoff. My aunt, Ethel Rosenzweig, told me she thinks a lot of the women voted against me because they were threatened by me being so independent and strong, which was sad, but I guess it's true.
You mentioned Ethel Rosenzweig, and I know the Rosenzweig family is so artistic, and I know that you write beautifully, and you mentioned about family being tinkerers and tailors. Do you think in general that there were certain professions that Jewish people went into, and why?
Well, Jewish people were definitely merchants and grocers.
Is there a specific reason that you think they gravitated towards certain professions?
Probably because they were good salesmen, and they probably didn't have to have any kind of college education for those things, and they didn't have educations in those days, not even high school.
You are college educated, though. Has having an educational background changed you in some ways?
But I really wasn't college educated because my father couldn't afford to send us. I went to work immediately out of high school. I went to take some courses after I had been in business for a while, gotten divorced, and decided there were more aspects to life than just being in business. So I went to UCLA, and I went to University of Santa Monica, and then I just kept pursuing all sorts of courses in writing.
Were you associated in any way with any of the synagogues and their education programs growing up?
No.
Did you have friends that were more religious than you, and how did they not accept you and the way you practiced?
No, I think everybody's families were similar to mine. I don't think anybody is religious. In fact, I never saw orthodoxy as such a stronghold as it is now. It wasn't. We never had men walking around in big black hats and curls.
Did you ever go to any of the famous Savannah dances, the ballyhoos or the coronets or the...
Actually, those were before World War II, and that was when I used to sit on the steps of the pavilion at Tybee and watch my aunts go in there and dance under a big crystal ball. But I came of age during World War II, and everything changed because Before World War II, the Jewish people in Savannah were even separated. The Orthodox Jews were felt lesser than the Temple Jews, the Reform Jews. They almost looked down on each other. But after World War II, I can remember hearing Mother saying, they're Deutsche. That meant they're German. But after World War II, a Jew was a Jew was a Jew.
Were you ever associated with Workman's Circle or Harmony Club or any of the other business clubs that helped or in some way promoted Jewish businesses or social activities?
Well, I now invest in WWCU. And the Harmony Club, my husband and I joined because it was social for young couples.
Was it unusual for a woman to be interested in politics at the time you were?
Very unusual.
Did you have any backlash because of it?
Well, as I said, a lot of the men, and I think a lot, as my Aunt Ethel said, a lot of the women resented me because it meant if she's going to do that, I have to do it. They thought I was too pushy. That never bothered me one bit.
Did you find that in terms of being an independent woman, in terms of being a businesswoman, in terms of being a political woman, that the Jewish community hindered you, helped you, supported you, or got in the way?
I think they supported me. I think the Jewish community, especially in business more than in social life. But we were active socially because my husband was very political and a good businessman, and I was a good businesswoman.
What type of work did he do?
He owned Center Brothers, which started out as a floor covering business and grew into a really big business, very successful.
When you were running for office, did you ever experience any anti-Semitism because you were not only a woman, but you were a Jewish woman running for office?
When I was running for the Senate, I later ran for alderman, but when I was running for the Senate, the resentment that I found when one of my co-workers went door to door with me was an elderly gentleman, I guess you would call him a gentleman, slammed the door in my face and said, I can't support you, you like niggers. And I opened the door and said, sir, I'll let them for senior citizens.
There's always been a good relationship or a strong relationship between a lot of the Jewish community and the blacks because of work together in the civil rights movement. And yet here in the South, there was also segregation, there was also Jews that owned slaves. And then in some of the later years, because of the Muslim-Jewish conflict, maybe it's not, people don't work quite as well together. In your experience, did you have difficulty throughout your life in communicating or working with or working for black citizens?
Oh yes, I've been called a nigger lover many times.
All right. And how do you react, and how do people that you're friends with who are African American react when you suffer because they suffer?
I always felt that we were totally equal and there wasn't any difference at all. There was never any difference. The NAACP, when I ran for the state senate, the NAACP backed me.
If I remember correctly,
Or a black candidate, actually.
that's kind of interesting.
It was very unusual, but they certainly have changed now.
Elaborate.
Elaborate is that I felt like when I was working for civil rights, and Bowles Ford became the first black alderman, and Judge Gadsden became the first Superior Court judge, we were all very close friends, and we were all equals. And now I feel that the black government in Savannah doesn't feel as open as we did then, as the Rizakis team and I and the others, because Otis Johnson himself said when he was looking for a city manager, I want somebody that looks like me. And when I ran for alderman when I was 72, Edna Jackson ran against me, and we had been friends for years, and she didn't tell me until the end. And she said, guess what I just did, darling? She said, I just qualified. And I said, oh, we're going to both be on city council. She said, no, we're going to run for the same seat. We going to still be friends, aren't we? I said, hell no, we're not. And then she put out a circular that said, let's put a majority in City Hall and put it in every black church in Savannah. And so I defy her even to this day to answer that.
You also work for cultural arts throughout the years. Have you seen a difference in the quantity or quality of arts available to citizens of Savannah? And have you ever seen a difference between what is offered through the Jewish community?
No, I don't see a difference.
Okay. All right. Of all the things that you've done in Savannah, is there anything in particular that you're most proud of? And what is something that you think still needs to change for the future going forward?
Well, for the future going forward, I think the city needs to annex outlying areas like the landings and Wilmington Island so that we will have a more diversified population and can draw on all the expertise and brilliance of people living in those areas and be a much richer city. The thing I'm most proud of is when I was in the real estate business, I started the first all-girls Little League team called Miriam Center Little League. And just recently, somebody found me on Facebook, and she was one of the players. She's now a stand-up comic all around the world. But she told me a really interesting story. She said after 2 years, they were beating the boys so badly that they made them drop out and not have a Little League girls team anymore.
I know a lot of Jewish children got their sports through the JEA, and there aren't really enough children these days, it seems, to host teams. Is there anything that you can think of that, as a Jewish community, we can do to promote a greater caliber and quantity of activities for our youth?
Well, don't they still have AZA and B'nai B'rith Girls and those groups?
They do, but I don't think they have quite the following they did.
Well, I think that's because everybody's so intermingled now. There's intermarriage, and nobody's socially segregated as they once were.
This exhibit is going to deal with the Jews as they've given strength through education, traditions, and leadership to the Savannah community. And it seems like you've managed to hit on all points, but in terms of Savannah being a diverse city, what are your hopes for the city of Savannah and for the Jewish population as part of it?
I would like to see the Jewish population be closer to one another. I do believe in interacting with all other religions and races, but I think there needs to be a more closeness and a more pride in being Jewish. As I said, I may not go to a synagogue, but there's a great pride in my Jewish heritage. I think we're just stamped when we're born, and we follow that.
Thank you very, very much.
California.
Tell me about Daughters of Destiny.
Daughters of Destiny is a program where women come together in a group, and I guess you could call it spiritual, but it has some therapy involved because I have a master's in spiritual psychology, and I want to take what I learned from my teachers out into the world, and I've seen massive changes in women's lives just by being heard and understood and people caring.
What do you think that women can do to bolster other women in a way that maybe male friends cannot?
Loving and listening and opening their hearts.
Do you still work with Women of Destiny groups?
Daughters of Destiny.
Daughters of Destiny groups?
I'm writing the book that should go with it, and I would like to take it onto screen and have people call in. I had bought a house that I donated that was like a little cottage for that, but I've since sold it.
When you talk about that, you're talking about something that's interactive on the computer?
I would like to do that. That's one of my goals before I check out.
That's wonderful.